Yo, what's up, everyone? Today is November 10th, 2025. This is Real Sankara Hours, your favorite Pan-African socialist political podcast where we talk about news, current events, black culture, all the fucked up shit going on in the world from a Pan-African socialist perspective. I'll just mention this. If you want to support independent black media, patreon.com/realsankara-hours. You can become a patron for $5 a month. At $3 a month, you can just become a supporter, but you don't get access to bonus content. Our last bonus episode, we talked about the Port Chicago disaster. So if you want access to that, you have to pay $5 a month. Also, we're on YouTube. So our YouTube channel is getting up. So if you are listening to this on YouTube, I thought I'd get this out the way out the jump. Let's say if you don't, have money to, let's say you have a tight budget and becoming a patron is outside of your budget because, as we'll discuss, in this episode about how the economy's fucked. A lot of people are suffering. So anyway, if you just become a subscriber to our YouTube channel and hit the bell notification, you can be both, one, a subscriber, and two, you'll be notified of new episodes when they're released. That helps us. It helps boost our stuff out there in YouTube. So the more subscribers we have, the better. And obviously click the bell notification. So I just want to get that out the way, especially if you're listening to us on YouTube. So anyway, so with that out of the way, our website, realsankarahours.org, as you can go on that website and see where else we're located. But anyway, this is Adam Hudson here, coming, from the Bay Area, California.
And this is Peter MGunn, coming out of Chicago, currently being still terrorized by ICE in a largely indiscriminate manner. But I will say, and I recorded a solo episode I'll upload soon, that it is nice to see the city really unite in fighting back against it. It's pretty universal, everywhere I go, anti-ICE stuff, and every I don't know if this is the case in the Bay Area, but almost every storefront, especially restaurants and stuff, have signs now that are ICE is not allowed without a warrant. I don't think that that may necessarily stop them, but just even seeing it, it's nice to see that even local business owners and stuff are supportive of, or doing the part that they can to resist what is a terrorist operation. So
the mood here in the Bay Area, at least where I live, because this is something I've been thinking about, especially as a teacher, because there are a lot of people of immigrant backgrounds where I live, mostly Latino, but not just Latinos. For example, I have students who are immigrants from Yemen or Afghanistan, Filipino Americans whose family came as immigrants, and the Filipino American experience is pretty unique, particularly in the context of California, Filipino farm workers. I've heard stories of I've overheard students talk about because there is some real fear of whether or not their relatives will be deported, or they hear they knew maybe a family friend or another relative who got snatched up. And I had an interesting conversation in the teacher's lounge, and what I heard is that at least in this district, the policy of the school is like, if ICE or any of these federal agents come to snatch a student up, the policy is to put the schools on lockdown. So it is good to see schools responding to this. That at least where I live, that the schools are doing their best to protect students from ICE. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned Chicago. Like, yeah, as California is like also on Trump's shit list when it comes to ICE and deportations, and um, it is incredibly just as a teacher, I have students who their first language is not English and they come from immigrant backgrounds, and like you know it's made me worry for their safety. I'll be honest, I've worried about their safety. That like shit, like I don't want my students to be fucking just snatched up or their parents snatched up and by ICE. So it's good to see communities come together and just say like, ICE is not welcome, because like yeah, so that's the best way I would describe the mood, at least where I live in my immediate area. I do think there is fear among migrant communities, but it is good to see like certain institutions like school districts be very clear about where they stand, and also how to respond if ICE agents appear on a school campus, which is like, it's such thuggery, like, so you just get like snatching people up at fucking schools. Like, you would think that a school would be,
Yeah. Or on their way to school. They
yeah,
like to do that too, like literally snatching kids at the bus stop. Like
it it's like it is it's pure thuggery and terrorism. That's what it is. And I'm glad to see like people putting up a fight against it in their local communities. Actually, that ties into the government shutdown, because the reason why the government shut down is because Trump and the GOP, they don't want to give health care to quote unquote illegals, and so the government, it's been like what, 39 days, 40 days?
yeah, a little
Some,
over 40 days, I think. It's the longest shutdown in American history, from what I
yeah,
understand.
yeah, yeah. So the disagreement is,
don't
yeah.
worry. Don't worry, because the Democrats caved like they always do, or
Yeah,
8 of
our
them did.
our glorious opposition party.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Which, go ahead.
go. Oh, I mean, yeah, just to kind of lay out the groundwork, because yeah, the Trump and the GOP, their whole thing was they don't want to give healthcare to quote unquote illegals, which is like, what? Like, why is that a fucking issue? Like, we can't spend money giving healthcare to illegals. Oh, okay, so you can give like billions of dollars to Argentina, or in billions of dollars to Israel. Like, oh, okay, so there's money to bail out Argentina or whatever, but like, God forbid, like some quote unquote illegal like needs to use the hospital. Like, that's just, anyway. So that's been one of the main reasons why like the government was shut down, and so like,
is that what the justification was? I guess
yeah,
they couldn't be like, we want no Americans to have health care.
that's
Like,
yeah,
like
that's
what is this collective punishment? Like, everyone has, like, everyone has to suffer. I mean, just on a personal level, it's like I'm trying to like get a stable job and stable employment, so I can have health insurance, but it's like I guess not, because like the subsidies, which admittedly an imperfect part of the ACA, but like a necessary part to keep health insurance from being completely insane, even though it is already insane. And it's
yeah,
like, well, you're gonna get rid of that, and you're gonna not do anything to replace it. And I guess the 11th dimensional chess calculus is like, well, now they'll really get creamed in the midterms. If we just don't, if we cave, then, now they'll really get creamed. I mean, I think what it was is basically once you stop paying the air traffic controllers, like they're always the football in this fight, in like a fight about the federal government shutting down, because they're pretty indispensable, especially for the ruling class, which loves its air travel. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you
Hmm.
know, so that's a way for them to feel the squeeze, pretty easily. But also like, yeah, it's like complete chaos over the skies, and they had to fix it by Thanksgiving, but I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't just get rid of the filibuster.
Yeah, yeah,
Because even Trump was like, yeah, you should probably just do that, which they could have done. But I guess, it's the hallowed institution of the Senate is just so important. And I guess just as an aside, like this the b- body on which the American Senate was, I guess, modeled after, which would have been the Roman Senate,
yeah.
was
Hmm.
like was not elected.
No, no. It
Senators were
was
not elected. It was
they,
basically just a country club, and it
yeah,
actually didn't even really have any power ever.
yeah.
I mean,
To sorry to add to that point. Yeah, because the Roman Senate, it was basically like older men who were property owners. They were the ones who like. It was basically like just a deliberative body where you know like men. I think it's like you had to be over the age of 30 or 35 or something like that, and you
yeah, and
need
there
to,
were wealth requirements.
yeah, exactly. There are wealth requirements. So like they had to own property, and it was like some like wise men council who deliberated, um and yeah, I think the Roman Senate like I think during, I mean, I like to pick your brains, Peter, because I think you've been like uh leaning into like ancient Roman history, but like I believe during the Republican period, right? Like the Senate had a little bit more power. Obviously,
Um,
during the Empire, right? The Senate was like completely fucking irrelevant, like during the Empire.
yeah,
But
well, during the Republican period, like there wasn't, they actually might have had less power because they couldn't actually. There was uh, another body called like the Assembly or the Plebeian Assembly, and
right, yeah, yeah, yeah,
and they actually had the power to enforce legislation, and the Senate, but it was kind of a thing where like the Senate had to agree to it, like you didn't get to do too much outside of it because like it was still basically, well, actually it wasn't. You had to be a plebeian to like become a tribune of the plebes, which was, kind of like, I guess, like the Speaker of the House.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Speaker of the House, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay.
But if you like if you got too powerful and agitated against the Senate too much, they would just kill you. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
that was how that happened a few times in the late
Very,
Republican period.
it's very ancient Roman thing to do. Like if you get too much power, yeah, we're just gonna kill you.
Oh man, the political drama of the late Roman Republic is, well, it's very instructive for um, America today. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
just to say that like I'm never not someone who doesn't think we should just get rid of the whole thing.
The
Even
Senate,
in
you
a
mean?
parliamentary,
You mean the you mean the Senate, right? Getting
yeah,
rid of the Senate.
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
get rid of the. There's no reason for it other than to have a check on democracy. So it's just
Pretty.
important to
Yeah.
remember when thinking about that body. But I would just say that every every one of the senators that caved, that's running for re-election should get primaried. Um, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So like the reason for this shutdown is basically, well, the Republican Party for like the past 15 years they've been trying to gut and get rid of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, which by the way, uh, is a creature of the Heritage Foundation. Obama president, former President Obama, modeled the Affordable Care Act off of basically a proposal by the Heritage Foundation, um, which is basically like purchasing healthcare on like this free market exchange. So that's what the ACA is, and yeah, there are federal government subsidies to make the cost more affordable. But like, when you hear Affordable Care Act, the word affordable should be put in quotes because, like, especially when the average American's purchasing power just keeps declining. So like, your wages aren't going up, but everything keeps getting fucking expensive, right? Once you factor in all those other costs that you have to fucking pay to just fucking survive in this country, you look at your healthcare premiums and like they don't really seem like that affordable. It's basically more affordable compared to what it could be when like private health insurance companies could just like run a fucking muck. So, anyway, so essentially, Trump and the GOP, they've been wanting to basically end the ACA healthcare subsidies, and so the Democrats didn't agree to it, so hence why the government has been shut down for the past 40 days, and during that shutdown, because it's really not like about giving healthcare to quote unquote illegals, they just want to get rid of the ACA. Really, that's really what it is. So don't like even with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like she's been trying to rebrand herself as like a populist, but like she'll say stuff that sounds reasonable, but like I do think she's a snake oil salesperson. Like you can't like trust what the shit that she says because I don't think she's coming from a sincere position. But like when she says stuff about like this Obamacare is unaffordable for like regular Americans and blah 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 blah, like okay, yeah, sure, but like her party and what people like her, they don't want like single payer healthcare or like nationalized healthcare like the way that every other industrialized country has. They just want like private insurance to run a fucking muck. So and so in the midst of like the government shutdown, like yeah, Trump just basically just stopped SNAP benefits, which is basically food stamps, because it's just Trump's way of saying, what, fuck you. Like Trump, this current administration of Trump, like the plutocracy and imperialism are so out in the open that like if you're a leftist like us, like you've long understood that America is a very unequal capitalistic country and that it's run by oligarchs who control both parties, and both parties are support the imperial war machine. But but the thing is, like previously, there had to be some facade to it. Like you couldn't do it out in the fucking open like that and be too gaudy and just ostentatious. With Trump is like there is no facade anymore. It's like this is it. This is American oligarchy and empire like unmasked. There's no, the emperor has no clothes at this point. So, so Trump, yeah, he was like, yeah, he's like, cutting SNAP benefits because it's just like his way of saying, what, fuck you.
Oh,
So anyway,
I mean, like they really have gone above and beyond because it's like,
yeah,
all the states like basically were like, well, we're still gonna do it, and then like, a federal judge is like, you still have to fund it, because like that funding was like already agreed upon, and they're just like, come on, guys, you said we were gonna kill the poor. Sorry, that Dead Kennedy song popped into my head. Kill the poor. I mean, that's
yeah,
uh,
that is like pretty much where we're at. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, and just the amount of like regular people that still don't. It's nice to see like at least some people on social media like lay down the numbers, like really it's like $38 a year compared to how much of your tax dollars go to fucking Israel. Like
yeah,
what are you mad about? But people still like, have it in their brain like food stamps or SNAP benefits, like EBT. It's not. It's really like you cannot survive and have a healthy diet on like what is given to you in that. Um,
Yeah.
so,
And
but
t- t-
America likes to not have empathy. What did Charlie Kirk say? Like empathy is a sickness or something.
yeah, he said like I think empathy like I'm kind of roughly paraphrasing that empathy is like overrated or like anyway, I don't know. But like so speaking of food stamps, like the image of food stamps and there was like this fucking fake AI video of like some, single mother black woman who was like running some food stamp scam. Anyway, it was totally AI. It was fake. But like the right wing ate it up because they're like, see, this is where our fucking tax dollars are going to. We're just fucking, these damn welfare queens and like Bonquisha just taking my damn tax dollars and spending it on food stamps. When you actually look at the fucking reality, most people on food stamps are white. It is like the Marjorie Taylor Greens if she were like broke as shit. Like it is people like her and like people who look like her. Those are the people who are on fucking food stamps. I've never been on food stamps, and I would not like to be in a position where I would rely on food stamps. I've been on unemployment before when I was between jobs, but like food stamps I haven't been on, so I don't know what the experience of being on food stamps is like. But it's but the thing is, yeah, most people who are on food stamps and welfare are like poor whites, and this is the thing, like especially because this is like one thing that I think that's like really been difficult to have like some sense of class consciousness in this country is because there is a real divide between the black working class and the white working class. Economically, the black poor, the white poor, and the black working class and the white working class should join forces, right? Because yes, there's the black poor and the black working class and black America in general is at a level of like, as a community of people is at a level of like relative underdevelopment compared to whites because of slavery and Jim Crow, right? But at the same time, like the white people who are poor, who are low income, who do rely on food stamps, they do have a similar economic. There's an overlap in their economic interests and the interests of the black poor and the black working class. So you would think that they would join forces and, unite in a labor class struggle against the oligarchs. But the Republican Party and the right wing, they are able to use whiteness to convince the white poor and the white working class that their enemy are, black people on welfare or immigrants taking their gerbs. When in reality, it's not. It's not their enemy. Like the enemy of the white poor are not black people. It's not immigrants. It's the people who thought it was a great fucking idea to outsource those factory jobs from, the Rust Belt to other countries and leaving those like Rust Belt communities that are a lot of them are predominantly white and working class and poor, like leave those communities with nothing, in the same way that like black communities were fucking neglected, right? And then you see similar problems in poor white communities as poor black communities, the family instability that comes from like, out of wedlock births, drug addiction, fucking fentanyl, all that shit that's happening in like poor white communities. So that's what's been so like just fucking I mean, it's not surprising for people like us who pay attention to this stuff. But it's still like when you see like people fall for the same shit, it's like, really? Like, God, you're like you haven't fucking learned, have you? So but
Americans don't learn.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Where are we gonna learn? School?
Right, yeah, duh. We're gonna learn school, man. Come on, 6'7".
Wow. Well, speaking of the end of American learning and through AI and AI propagated or AI slop propaganda, which is like, honestly, this is gonna be a real go-to for reactionaries across the world because it's fascinating in the sense of like I always wonder like what is going on in the reactionary mind that they imagine that this scenario is happening, and AI can just make it for you. Case in point, the failing campaign of Andrew Cuomo. Like that transition. Um,
Yeah, I mean, oh god, yeah, fuck that guy. Keep
yeah.
talking. Yeah, yeah, because we should thread. Yeah, that's a great transition. But like, there's a lot to like thread the both of these. But yeah, go ahead.
I saw one of these. It was like they released it on Halloween. It was like they had AI Zora and Mamdani be like, "I'm gonna take all your children and make them Muslim," and it was just like you really like can't. I mean, it was basically that. It was. I would.
Jesus fucking
I don't
Christ.
know if I would say I was shocked, but it was just like, wow, you guys really got nothing. And
Yeah,
like reactionaries always have the most lazy minds, and so of course they're just gonna do this. And it was just like this is really all they had left. And uh, let a thousand think pieces bloom on the election of Zoran and Mamdani, the jihadi communist who's also a neoliberal sellout. Um, I, you know, I think when he won the primary, I think what I said was so the best mayor, probably one of the best mayors in American history, and at least like a model for anyone who wants to like have an insurgent mayorship is Harold Washington, and the first black mayor of Chicago, and in 1983 to 1987. And if Zoran like has studied him, then he might have a better idea of like how to go about the bare knuckle brawling of municipal politics, because it is just like being the mayor is a shit job. And
yeah,
I would hope that like one of the reasons, and maybe it's because he's foreign born, so he can't be president. But like one of the reasons I feel like he might actually be real is that it doesn't seem like he wants to, in the way like fucking Giuliani or uh even Bill de Blas, like they all think that being mayor of New York City is a good stepping stone to national politics, and it's really not.
yeah, yeah,
So if he just
yeah,
wants to be mayor and that's the end of his political roadmap, then he can dig in and fight. So uh I hope that he does. I It's just nice to see someone like Andrew Cuomo, who is just a genuinely like off like the amount of
sack of shit.
genuine sack of shit. Yes. The
Yeah, it's a sack of
the
shit.
amount of contempt he had for for his own campaign is pretty shocking. It is, and it's just pretty shocking to see like New York City, the richest city in the richest country in the world. You'd think that like the political campaign for mayor would he would put a little more thought into it than just like spinning the wheel of random ethnic groups and just like, all right, I guess I'll go to the Albanians this week, and then the Sikhs next week, and then just make AI slop, and then just say my opponent's gonna do 9/11 again, and um, just overall disgraceful. And I do think that it is at least some sign that, and I don't want to say like maybe the Justice Democrats were right because it's like at what cost, but I think we're just getting to the point where the gerontocracy of the Democratic Party just has to go. Like they're literally just getting too old,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're
yeah,
not like they're done. They got no
yeah,
moves. Like it sounds very old person rambling, like, what they think is like hardcore politics, baby. It's just like, no, you sound like you're off your meds, Grandpa. Like, I'm sorry.
It's kind of what you're saying. Kind of reminds me of like that scene in Batman where he's fighting Bane, and Bane is like, "Peace has cost you your strength. Victory has defeated you." Like it's like the literally the old, in all meaning of the term old, the old guard of the Democratic Party. They've gotten like way too comfortable and complacent that, yeah, someone like Cuomo doesn't know how to even put in effort to run a campaign. Like he thinks he can do like the bare minimum and just ride off a pure name recognition, and then he could win. When to kind of bridge like, Mamdani and the government shutdown, because those two are definitely linked, because Mamdani's obvious message was hammering home on affordability. And I think the government shutdown, Trump not doing anything to tackle the economy, people being on food stamps, I think that those created the conditions for more people in New York to come out for Mamdani. And I also think because I was thinking about the episode we recorded earlier about Mamdani when he won the primary. I think what put him on the national radar is when he basically said he wouldn't travel to Israel as mayor of New York City. And I think that right there put him on the map, because he just said like he's going to put the interests of local New Yorkers over Israel. And like, yeah, because he's running to be mayor of New York City, not the, New York ambassador to Israel. And I think that message resonated because, I do think the contradictions are being heightened, where things are becoming so dire that there is this hunger for, like more progressive politics. And I think the results of the election, like, there are other Democrats that won, like, for example, I think it was
we got another CIA
name,
agent in.
Yeah, the former spook in. Governor of Virginia. I mean,
right.
Come on, that makes total. I mean,
spooks all the way
Langley.
down that state.
Oh, right, yeah.
The Democrats love running CIA agents for some reason.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, the CIA was established under Harry Truman.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was notoriously very liberal. It was all like Yale grads who loved, literature and all that stuff. Like before it got I guess probably before MK Ultra, and then it got really spooky, for lack of a better word. I think probably the Reagan era is when it got more just straight up. I mean, it was always ghoulish, but it lost the liberal effete nature. But it always is like, we're a little more evolved than like the FBI is like half Mormons, and especially compared to like DHS now, which is just like, the CIA is like the advanced deep state, that is like basically ready to graduate into becoming the real state, I guess.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of a slight tangent, but as someone who's spent a good deal of my life writing about the war on terror, covert ops, yeah, the CIA was established under Harry Truman. His predecessor agency was the Office of Strategic Services in World War II, which that was under Roosevelt. And then the Green Berets, Special Forces, they were created under John F. Kennedy. So I think like within the liberal democratic tradition, when it comes to foreign policy, they've tended to favor the more leaner approach to American empire. So that would emphasize CIA covert operations, and if it's using the U.S. military, then they would prefer airstrikes, cruise missiles, or sending in special operations forces to do the dirty work versus like massive shows of force, which is I think tends to be more of a Republican thing. Republicans, the conservatives, and I think Trump kind of represents this too more openly, but I think within the kind of conservative mind when it comes to the military, they like massive shows of force, whereas the Democrats, liberals tend to like more the kind of leaner approach to essentially the same end, imperialism, but they like the more lean approach. So the CIA is one approach, and even within the CIA, there's like the conventional intelligence gathering shit that like every other intelligence agency across the world does, but then like there's the covert operations. There's doing the more like kind of political cloak and dagger stuff to overthrow governments, but then there's also there's long been like the paramilitary aspect of the CIA, and they often recruit from the U.S. military, like former Navy SEALs, Delta Force types, like guys who were like in Delta Force and Navy SEALs. They wind up becoming like CIA contractors, and they're the ones you send in when like you need someone to pull the trigger and just kill people and get away with it, and like have it be like plausible deniability. So anyway, yeah, it's no surprise that like let me actually get her name. I think it's Wanberger, right?
Spamberger.
I think Spamberger. Okay, I knew some sort of burger. Okay, Spamberger.
There's always
a
burger involved. If you look up
Spanberger.
Spamberger.
So yeah, Spanberger. Abigail Spanberger. She's now the governor. She won the Virginia gubernatorial election, and then to add on, in my state of California, there was Prop 50 that won. I voted for it. That was basically like a measure. It's California's response to gerrymandering in Texas. So basically, it's like essentially just gerrymandering in California to increase more Democratic seats in the House of Representatives to counteract the Trump enforced gerrymandering in Texas. So I'm actually glad that won, because I actually do think that that's something that I mean, I have mixed feelings about Newsom, but I think he's doing a slightly better job of being like a more effective oppositional partisan within the Democratic Party. And I think the move of like him putting Prop 50 on the ballot and having the people of California vote for it, I think I was actually kind of happy to hear that it won, like genuinely happy, because I do think like that's a form of effective opposition within the confines of the shitty two-party system that we have. And then obviously Mamdani won, but to connect it, like, yeah, the government shutdown, I think, is like what led to it was like the cherry on top of like growing widespread discontent toward the Trump administration. And yeah, and it's really just like, well, entirely predictable, but really shitty that the Democrats caved, because the Democrats today just signed a deal with the Republicans. I mean, basically, I think it's a handful, like around 8 Democratic senators who agreed to this proposal where essentially they would reopen the government, but without the thing that started the shutdown in the first place, which was to continue funding the ACA. So the Democrats essentially signed a deal with the GOP in the Senate, but they didn't get what they wanted, which was to keep funding the ACA. So it's a total, like, it's not even a deal. It's a total just capitulation. So it would lead to, like, funding of food stamps. And then obviously I think what you were saying, Peter, earlier was they probably signed this deal because of the air traffic controllers, like the need to pay them. But yeah, it was definitely a cave by the Democrats, because they didn't get what they wanted, which was the government subsidies toward the ACA, which would make healthcare, health insurance relatively more affordable. So basically, without those subsidies, that means healthcare premiums go up. So if you're purchasing healthcare in the healthcare free market exchanges, which that's something I've always had an issue with the ACA is that you have to buy your health care. Like, how come? Like, can't it just be like something that comes out of your paycheck and it goes to like just Medicare for all, and you don't have to think about it? Like, you get paid, goes to your paycheck. I mean, it's taken out of your paycheck, like Social Security, and then when you need to go to a hospital, you go to a hospital like relatively free of charge, or you pay like maybe like a small like copay or whatever, and that's it. You don't have to fucking worry
No,
about it.
we,
But like,
we
no, you got
need individuals to take charge of their own health by making
it.
them make these anxiety-ridden decisions about it, which can only
Yeah,
benefit their mental
it's
health,
yeah, because it's
as Milton Friedman wanted.
it's so Yeah, and it's like every fucking year you have to like renew it. Like, okay, you have to renew, your healthcare coverage. Make sure you can get a more affordable deal. Like, oh, okay, so every fucking year I have to like look at my budget again. Like, okay, do I have this much money to like, pay for healthcare? And like, which, should I get like the basic one and like get more premium and blah blah blah. Like, fortunately for myself, I'm pretty healthy. I got blood work done a couple months ago. I'm in pretty good health. I don't have any like serious chronic health issues, so I'm pretty lucky. But I have a lifestyle where I exercise very regularly, and I like to eat like a balanced diet, and so and yeah. So, but for people who like are not like myself, who have like serious health issues, and look, we're all mortal, right? Even someone like myself could probably have like some health scare or some shit that happens, just as you get older and stuff like that. But like for the most part, yeah, I'm pretty healthy. But like for people who have more health problems, they have to pay more, and so it's like, oh, every fucking year you have to like renew your health care. So like you can either keep the one you want, the one you have, but then the fucking price goes up, or you can go back on the healthcare exchanges and like quote unquote shop for a cheaper one, when it really should be like, you know what? If we all pay fucking taxes, let's just have a portion of our taxes just go to nationalized healthcare, and that's it. Not fucking worry about it. And if you have additional things, like, okay, you can purchase like a private health insurance plan that supplements the basic shit you get from like a nationalized fucking healthcare. And then when you go to the doctor, maybe you might get like one bill, and that's it. It should be that fucking simple. But no, we need fucking free market control your healthcare because blah 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 blah. Like, Americans are not responsible, and you need to be in charge of your own healthcare. Blah 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 blah. And like, don't you want more anxiety and shit? Yeah, because yeah, obviously, going to like a damn like yeah, mentally worrying about how much you're paying for healthcare. Yeah, that's really good for your health, huh? That's really gonna like fucking, help you lower your blood pressure, whatever the fuck. Like, yeah, that's a great way to be in like amazing mental and spiritual health, is constantly worrying about how much you're gonna fucking pay for healthcare, on top of how much you gotta pay for fucking food,
This is, I mean,
housing.
this is why, you know, the fucking RFKs of the world like get traction because, people instead of like because they have so much anxiety on healthcare, they think they're trying to find any like hack or any quote unquote natural remedy that's actually the problem and not like our healthcare system. So no, it's actually seed oils, it's actually Tylenol, it's actually this. And when I see that stuff, it's just like, well, I think I know what the real problem is, but we can't address that yet. I mean,
Yeah, because like they never point the finger at capitalism for like poisoning us, like our fucking food supply and shit.
yeah.
How many like microplastics we're exposed to and carcinogenic shit. Like, yeah, they never point the finger at that.
Yeah, I mean,
You know.
look, as someone who's like in my last job, every single thing basically we had to order was from Cisco, and it's like, yeah, like seeing the food system for what it is up close, it gives you like makes it uh it's a pretty bleak outlook. But
Mm.
I guess enough about that. Should we get into some more cheery topics?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, let's talk about. Well, let's just talk about brief mention of Palestine and then Sudan, and then we can close out. So I'm looking at the time. We're at like 40, a little over 45 minutes right now.
I mean,
So
we can go a little
around
longer
there.
today.
Yeah. Okay. So like. Okay. So. Oh yeah, Palestine. So I know in my last solo episode I talked about the ceasefire, but like the two of us haven't talked about it together. But uh. So with the yeah, there's a ceasefire signed last month between Israel and Palestine. I'm not well. It's also, I mean, it was a deal between Israel and Hamas directly, but essentially it was all the Israeli hostages were released, and in return, nearly 2,000 Palestinians were released from Israeli prisons. Some came back in body bags. I think to this day, I think there might still be like some maybe missing Israeli hostages. I remember reading in the Middle East Eye like last month that Hamas had said that like Israel's indiscriminate bombing of Gaza delayed locating some of the hostages'
Like,
bodies,
no shit,
which like that's
man.
something. Yeah, like that's something people were mentioning, that Israel bombing Gaza would make it more risky for the hostages. So anyway, so yeah, that happened last month in mid October. Um, and as of today, November 10th, here's a headline from Al Jazeera: Israeli drone strike kills two in Gaza as ceasefire violations mount. Hamas condemns Israel's daily and continuous violations since a truce came into effect last month. And so the article reads: at least two people, including a child, have been killed in an Israeli drone strike east of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, according to Al Jazeera reporters, in the besieged Palestinian territory. By the way, I'm glad that like they've got Al Jazeera reporters, since like Israel pretty much wiped out Al Jazeera's bureau in Gaza like months ago. Anyway, so yeah, Hamas condemned Israel's daily and continuous violations since the truce came into effect last month, accusing it of maintaining a campaign of bombardments and demolitions across the besieged enclave. In a statement published on Telegram on Monday, the group said Israeli attacks had killed 271 people, over 90% of them civilians, and wounded 622 more since the ceasefire took effect on October 10th. So basically, like 2 years since this genocide began. The Israeli military said the Palestinians killed on Monday posed an immediate threat to its forces. Israeli forces have also been systematically destroying homes inside the so-called Yellow Line, a temporary withdrawal boundary agreed in the ceasefire. So the article goes on, but basically, a month into the ceasefire, yeah, Israel keeps violating it. Just it has not stopped bombing Gaza, and it's not like our stable genius president is doing anything to rein Israel in. Um,
I
so
mean,
I mean,
he did it one time. He shouldn't have to do it again. I mean, he
yeah,
did like,
yeah. I guess
and
that's
I hate to say this, because all right, well, before I say it, let's like go through sort of the basic concepts of what the plan is, because there's the first stage, which is basically Hamas releasing all the hostages it can find or locate, and Israel, withdrawing to like 5 kilometers or something, their little buffer zone they
yeah.
always like to talk about. And then the second part,
Mm-hmm.
which is really just the absolute doozy, is the idea of, Hamas is going to disarm, and then some sort of like Gulf state sponsored, with probably Egypt in there, like international stabilization force is supposed to come in and like basically be like the peacekeeping force. And they always talk about a technocratic administration in Palestine. Like, nobody fucking knows what that. I mean, I know what it means. It means basically eliminating all elements of resistance from Palestinian politics. Yeah, the best and brightest minds of international relations work so hard to, and all they could come up with, hey, let's bring back the British Mandate of Palestine. Like, real old, keeping it old school. What a deep, like, let's take it back to the original cause of the problem and get the Brits
Yeah.
back in there. That's amazing. Um, and so that's the part where it's like, I don't know how they're gonna come up with this, but and that's probably gonna fall apart. But even if it does, um, the ceasefire, or quote unquote ceasefire, the slowing down of the genocide from an accelerated pace to the slow to medium pace that we've been used to, since my entire adult life, since I became aware of this issue. I mean, it's good at least in the sense that like more aid can get in,
Yeah.
there's some ability to rebuild. But I guess, and I just hate, and I hate to make it about them, but I cannot get it off my mind to all the libs out there. Like, what did you think a Kamala Harris presidency would have done differently on this issue? What better outcome do you think would have
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think anyone
Yeah.
can say what that would have been. And I don't
It,
think there is a better outcome that a Democratic
no,
president could have gotten.
no, I don't think so either. I don't think so either. I think, yeah, I agree. I don't think it would have, like a Harris presidency, when it comes to the actual policy and outcome in Palestine. No, there's, it would. I don't think it would. I agree. I don't think it would have turned out differently. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think, and I think the liberals who, the ones who, a term I like to use that I don't think gets used enough is a hippie punch. Like the liberals who like to hippie punch to the left, like basically say the reason why we can't have anything good is because these fucking lefties. I mean, they don't want to. Now some of them are starting to change their tune because the Democratic leadership is so openly feckless that like more of them are speaking out against like the Democratic Party not having a spine. But I mean, like, I actually, another thing I wanted to mention in response to the Democrats caving, I wasn't surprised. I mean, like, I'm not surprised that they caved. I mean, even with like the wins, the victories that the Democrats got last week. I mean, they weren't gonna capitalize on that. I'm not surprised. But yeah, like the liberals who, yeah, like to hippie punch to the left as like the source of like why we can't have nice things. No, Harris would not have done anything radically different than what's being done now. It just would have, like I was saying before about our two-party system and them being an agreement on things. I mean, yes, well, I will say this with a caveat: the Democrats and the Republicans are not exactly the same. So I want to make that clear. But what's important to acknowledge is that they have a lot of areas of agreement and things that they align on. And one thing that they align on is continuing support for Israel. One thing that they align on is maintaining the U.S. empire. Where they differ is the means by which they do it. Like I was saying earlier, I think when it comes to Republicans, they tend to favor more like larger shows of force when it comes to American imperialism. With the Democrats, they don't like them. They're not super into massive shows of force. They still want to show that they're strong, but their favorite approach tends to be like, CIA paramilitary operations, special operations, Green Berets, cruise missiles, drone strikes. They like a more leaner approach to military force. They're not super into massive ground invasions and occupations like definitely during the Bush years. So even with like, okay, during the Obama years with Libya, right? Those are airstrikes. The U.S. didn't go, like, Obama didn't send ground troops to invade Libya and occupy it and then do a nation building project in the aftermath of Gaddafi being overthrown. They just did airstrikes, assisted the rebels, and that was it, right? So yeah, the two parties are not the same. There are some things that the Democratic Party are better on. And the reason why the Democratic Party is better on certain issues like civil rights and to some extent labor rights is because of social movements. It's not because the Democrats are doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They got pushed into that position through the history of the American labor movement and the Black liberation struggle and the victory of the civil rights movements. That's why the Democrats are relatively better than the Republican Party. That's really it. It's not because like the party in and of itself is operating from the goodness of its heart. Like, no, it's its own party machine. And so yeah, I don't think the Democrats, a Harris presidency or another Democratic president, let's say if it wasn't Harris, let's say it was just like another Democrat, let's say it was Gavin Newsom or whoever, like, it wouldn't have been different. I don't think it would have been different with having a Democratic president. Like, there's real continuity between administrations and across parties when it comes to American foreign policy. There's continuity. That's the best way to think of it. They're not exactly the same, but there's continuity. So yeah, to your point, Peter, I agree. Like, I don't like, but I mean, those liberals, I don't think they really, to be honest, a lot of those liberals who voted for Harris,
they don't care.
Thank you. They don't care about.
They say that, but there isn't a single like Palestinian advocacy group that endorsed Kamala Harris. There wasn't a single one that was like, you have to, as Palestinians, we're telling you to vote for the Democrats. So when it comes with they're trying to be like, actually, we're the real allies and you're the fake allies. It's like that's like,
oh
no, that's just not what happened. I mean, if anything, the opposite was happening. Like, there were Palestinians who were like, yeah, I don't know, get Trump in there. Let's see what happens. And so then Democrats could be like criticizing Palestinians for being bad allies to Palestine.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, the Democrats. It's an amazing act. What do you call it? The Democrats.
Yeah, actually, what you were saying about bringing back like old school British colonialism, that actually ties into.
Oh, nice. All right, let's go.
Yeah, that ties into Sudan. Yeah, we've been meaning to talk about Sudan, and before we recorded this episode today, I was really interested. I wanted to do a little bit more reading on the history of Sudan. So, if you'll indulge me, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to give like a historical summary, a little bit of Sudan. Well, actually, before I do that, to give everyone context about like what's going on, there's been a civil war in Sudan that began in April 2023, and the conflict is between the Sudanese military, the Sudanese armed forces, and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF. And the RSF, they are backed by the United Arab Emirates. And the RSF, their roots, they stem from the Janjaweed militias, who were responsible for committing atrocities and genocide against non-Arab Sudanese people during the war in Darfur. The war in Darfur that lasted from around like 2003 to 2020, to like 2019, 2020. So that was a pretty long war, pretty long like genocide war, like 17 years. And that was actually, I remember, when I was studying international relations at Stanford, I remember like that was one of the issues that it would get brought up in IR classes was Sudan. More than 150,000 people have died in the civil war. Nearly 12 million have been displaced. recently there was also a bloody massacre at Al Fasher in Western Sudan, and the bloodshed it was so uh just horrific that you can see the blood from the massacre from space. So there's like satellite imagery of basically there was like pools of blood in the sand where a massacre occurred, and it was visible from satellites in space. So that's what's going on right now in Sudan, and I want to be clear, like, um, we can care about both Palestine and Sudan without it being a whataboutism or gotcha thing. So I just want to say that because I've been getting annoyed with how, like, when people bring up Sudan and Congo in the context of Palestine, it's like, okay, have any of these people cared about Africa before Palestine, or is it just like you're just saying this on social media to be like, I'm more woke than you, I care about this. And I want to kind of dig into the history of Sudan, because even the stuff I see on like Instagram, social media, there's not like a lot of deep history diving into Sudan and the Congo and the roots of where these conflicts occur. And so like anyway, as I go through this, there's going to be a consistent theme you notice with the ongoing civil war and genocide in Sudan and other conflicts in Africa. So Sudan, if you look at a map, so there's Egypt, there's the Republic of Sudan, and there's South Sudan, right? So there's a Nile River, goes from the, like, flows downward from the Mediterranean, really upward from the lower Nile Valley up to the Mediterranean. So the Nile River covers both Sudan and Egypt. So actually, when I studied Arabic in college, even though I'm African American, oftentimes when I was in my Arabic classes, people thought I was Sudanese, and I didn't really think much of it at the time. But I was like, I've gotten that quite a bit, even today. Like, even now, like, there are some people who ask me, like, they, like, without me, like, let's say saying my full name, or even though I obviously speak with a American accent, some people, like, if they're from like maybe East Africa or know East Africans, I oftentimes get told that I look like I'm from Sudan, Eritrea, that region. So
Okay, I thought like I thought like Sudanese people were like all over like 6'4". I know that's a generalization, but they're pretty tall.
that tends to be like what South Sudan. I mean, I think some of the tallest people. I'm not saying every South Sudanese person is 6'4", but I think one of the tallest people is from South Sudan, I believe.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But anyway, I bring it up because Sudan, like Sudan and South Sudan, the people of that region are racially black. Sudan is black. In fact, in Arabic, it comes from the phrase Bilad al-Sudan, which means land of the blacks, land of black people. It just meant like a region like, oh, there's a lot of black people there. They're people who are dark-skinned, Afro-textured hair, like brown to basically anyone who's like, brown skin to like very dark brown to almost jet black people. And there are even when it comes to the Amazigh people in North Africa, from like Libya to Morocco, right? They tend to be lighter skinned, so more brown, but not like racially black. Even like when there are ancient paintings of ancient Egypt, even ancient Egyptians at the time saw the Amazigh people as like much lighter. So ancient Egyptians were always painted like as brown to black. Contrary to the Hollywood depictions of ancient Egypt, like, so anyway, Sudan, the history of it goes back to essentially ancient Nubian culture. So Kerma from 2500 BC to 1500 BC. Then there's Egyptian Nubia from around like 1504 BC to, I believe, 780 BC. Then there's the kingdom of Kush from 750 BC to 350 AD. And that was a Nubian kingdom. So for thousands of years, the people of Sudan are there's a variety of different ethnic groups, but the Nubian people are from the southern Egypt to Sudan region. And in fact, ancient Egypt, the civilization of ancient Egypt actually evolved from the Sudan region, from ancient Nubia, so like modern day Sudan and southern Egypt, flowed upward, and then to like the northern Egypt, and then you get ancient Egyptian civilization. So Sudan has a very rich thousands of years history. So I wanted to mention that because I like learning about African history and stuff that often gets overlooked in Eurocentric views of history. So anyway, from 350 AD to 1500, there were medieval Christian Nubian kingdoms around that time. Then starting around 1500 is when you started getting Islamic kingdoms, sultanates in Sudan. And I think there's, from what I recall, I'm giving you guys very basically like a general overview of Sudanese history. I am not an expert. If you want to learn more, like there's people who are more informed than I am, but I do include links in this episode, the show notes for if you're curious. But it was around 1500 AD that Islam spread in Sudan, and it was largely through like local Sudanese people converting, and then there was, I believe, let me get the name right. I believe it's let me get the name. Hold on. I believe it's the Fanj Sultanate. Funj. I'm sorry. There we go. The Funj Sultanate. Northwestern Eritrea, Western Ethiopia, and Sudan. So, it was a Funj people in present-day Sudan. They had converted to Islam, and they established a sultanate. And so it was right around then that Islam spread in Sudan. And then a couple hundred years later, around the 1700s, Arabization spread, basically through the adoption of the Arabic language, particularly in court texts and stuff like that. So anyway, 1821, the Ottomans show up. They start knocking on Sudan's door. So there was an Ottoman viceroy governor named Muhammad Ali Pasha from Albania, modern day Albania. White guy.
Fucking Albania.
Not like not like, French, Dutch, white, but like, Albania, like Balkans, so southeastern Europe. So obviously from like the Mediterranean region. So close to Turkey and all that. So again, this is during the time of the Ottoman Empire. So like Albania was under the rule of the Ottomans at the time. So Muhammad Ali Pasha from Albania, he was born in Albania, but he was a Ottoman ruler. He invaded and conquered northern Sudan. And Ottoman rule in Sudan lasted from 1820 to around 1899. So it was during that time, because basically it was around that time that the Ottomans, they controlled Egypt, and then they decided to go further south, and under, again, Muhammad Ali, he invaded and conquered Sudan and brought it under the control of the Ottoman Empire. Okay, now here's where we get to where the seeds of the conflict in Sudan start to emerge. If you look it up in Google, it's Anglo-Egyptian Sudan, also known as the Anglo-Egyptian Condominium. This is definitely a misnomer, but it's during that period from 1899 to 1956. The British colonized Sudan. Now, nominally, it was called Anglo-Egyptian Sudan, or the Anglo-Egyptian Condominium. It seemed like it was basically, on paper, it was like a joint venture between the British Empire and the Ottoman Empire in Egypt and Sudan. It was like a joint partnership. Like, okay, we're both gonna like govern and control Sudan. Basically, it was on paper a joint venture, but in reality, what it was, the British were the ones calling the shots when Sudan was colonized. So the British were calling the shots. The Ottomans in Egypt and Sudan, like the Ottomans in Sudan, they were kind of like the junior partners in this whole arrangement, but it was really the British who called the shots. Around like 1914, 1917, around this time, World War One. By the way, tomorrow, November 11th, is Veterans Day, but that's actually Armistice Day, the way it's remembered in other countries, because that was the end of World War One, November 11th, 1918. But yeah, it was around that time, like, yeah, Egypt was an Ottoman province nominally, but Egypt at the time was also, get my dates mixed up. From 1882 to 1956, Egypt was under British control. So keep in mind, during the time that Sudan is colonized, Egypt is also under British control. So the British had pretty much controlled Egypt and Sudan. And if you look at the Berlin Conference, the spheres of influence in Africa that the Europeans had, the British had most of Eastern Africa because under this brilliant guy named Cecil Rhodes, whom the Rhodes Scholarship is named after, he wanted a fucking railroad from Cairo to Cape Town, as the phrase went. So the British they were interested in controlling Eastern Africa to build a railway. And so hence why the British had occupied Egypt and Sudan, and then you go further south, like Kenya, Zimbabwe, South Africa, you go down, right? Uganda. So, yeah, Egypt was under British occupation from 1882 to 1956. And at the time, Egypt was an Ottoman province, but around that time, the British they were calling the shots. Basically, by the late 1800s to the beginning of the 20th century, the British were controlling shit in Egypt and Sudan. And the Ottoman Empire at that time, like, their influence in Egypt and Sudan was kind of waning. Then when World War One happened, the Ottoman Empire collapses, and then obviously the Sykes-Picot Agreement, the British get their quote unquote mandates in modern day Palestine, Jordan, and Iraq. France gets Syria and Lebanon. So, it was under British rule that the British, they heavily invested in the Arab North. So there's like, here's the thing, like being Arabness as an identity is not a race. It's not a racial identity, but the people who are Arab are obviously not European. So someone who is Arab in the U.S., they're not going to be treated as white. Although there are some Arabs, if you look at them, some of them could pass as white if you didn't like if you didn't know like their name, if their name wasn't like, let's say, Muhammad or Fatima or Abdullah, like if they didn't have a name like that, if they changed their name to like, my name is Alan or my name is Brittany, like they could probably pass for white. But like then you realize, hey, wait a sec, what the fuck? You're Lebanese, you're Syrian? Huh? So there are some Arabs who could pass for white. There are some who look brown. There are black Arabs. Particularly in Sudan and Egypt, there are black people who are Arab, and Arabness is more of like a cultural ethnic identity. And so anyway, the north of Sudan, particularly with the spread of Islam and Arabic, northern Sudan was more heavily Arab and Islamic influence. So the British invested more heavily in the Arab-run northern parts of Sudan through modernization of infrastructure, institutions, services. The western regions like Darfur and the southern regions of Sudan, they were neglected by the British because the British felt that they weren't ready for modernization. So the southern regions in Darfur, those are non-Arab, non-Muslim Sudanese people. But keep in mind, the people of Sudan and South Sudan racially are black, but there's a cultural and ethnic difference between the Sudanese people in the north who are more Arab culturally, and then Sudanese people in the south who are non-Arabic. So they could either be Christian or they practice more animistic indigenous beliefs. So, but the thing is that they're not Arab and they're not Muslim, and so um, once British colonization ended in Sudan, that kind of divide and rule that the British did in Sudan that created a lot of tension and division between the people in Sudan. And there's also like an interesting article I read from the Sudanese American Physicians Association. They kind of laid that out. So I wanted to make sure, like when I was reading stuff, that I was looking at sources from uh, people from Sudan. But anyway, I wanted to lay that out because when I was reading about it earlier today, I thought it was fascinating, and it helped me understand that these are the roots of it. And there's another guy on formerly known as Africa Stream. That site was taken down because, like, I mean, basically some forces within the West didn't like it. But anyway, the guy who had ran it, I forgot his name. He was kind of explaining it, and he basically laid out the same thing, that there was like that Arabs, the Arab run north and the non-Arab south were pitted against each other during British colonial rule. And that's what other like Sudanese sources I looked up said the same thing. That essentially the North and the South were pitted against each other under British rule. So after colonization ended, the seeds of mistrust and division were already sown under the British. So after colonization ended, you started getting conflict after conflict. And so this current civil war going on in Sudan right now is piggybacking off of the previous war in Darfur. So the former Janjaweed militias, who are now part of the RSF, they're primarily Arab, and they have like a ideology of Arab supremacy. So I think their whole thing is they want Sudan to be all Arab, and so they want to get rid of non-Arab Sudanese people. And so their horrific end goal is they want to finish the job from the last war, the war in Darfur. So there's continuity with this civil war from the previous one, and then there are others, but the seeds of the conflict was sowed basically by the British pitting the North and the South against each other during colonization. And anyway, that's my spiel on my short little history book report on the history of Sudan. And like I said, Sudan has a very rich history, and I think it's important to recognize that, because Sudan is not just like name dropping it because things are all bad going on. It has a very rich culture, like so many different African countries, and even with the Congo, also its own very rich history. But the situation in the Congo, you can trace the roots back not just to the colonial period, but you can trace the state that the Congo is in right now to the transatlantic slave trade, because the Congo was a major region, a slave trading region during its transatlantic slave trade. So I think it's really important for understanding what's going on in Africa and the legacy that colonization has left on the African continent. Colonization and the transatlantic slave trade. Sudan is just another example of that. So I thought it was interesting just learning about this stuff, reading about it, diving deeper into it. So I just wanted to share that on this podcast, and hope to inform other people as well.
I think that it's very paternalistic to blame all of Africa's problems on colonialism still, and you have to respect the agency of the RSF. And
Oh yeah.
this
I forgot.
is
Sorry.
right. I mean, I thank you very much for that, because you were like, I got a lot of shit to say, and I was like, dang, we went back to the old school. The I'm glad that like we still know how to like research and find shit on the internet because it is increasingly hard, and it is very hard to find any
Mm-hmm.
like the stuff I was trying to find about Sudan. It all goes through like foreign policy blob stuff, like the government aligned think tanks and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which is like it can be useful for just kind of getting the kind of groundwork on like what's going on, but it is A, very dry, and B, there is always like a slant to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
they like the ones I was listening to, they're talking about, like the role of gold, and then of course the Wagner group's got to be involved, which I don't think that like the one thing I want to guard against is the idea that, you know, obviously we don't support the RSF, but it's not like that there's one, it's not like SAF good, RSF bad, and it's that
Right.
simple.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah. No,
because
that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
because like it is, just a structural political problem that was inherited, and then from the overthrow of Bashir, you know,
Mm-hmm.
sort of the inability to reincorporate those forces or know what to do with them, and then but then also like as a source of cheap gold, especially for the UAE, who is the
Mm-hmm.
main backer of the RSF. And I will say, and I said this on this whole episode, like I will say, like if you do feel like this is something that you don't want to just feel powerless about. I mean, like we got it. The UAE does deserve to be called out at this point because they're not really straightforward or honest with what it is that they're doing there, and their ability to trade off like Dubai. And I don't think really anyone who listens to this podcast is going to Dubai that much, but um, like they definitely deserve to be called out more because they are just, I think
Yeah.
in many ways they're trying to throw their weight around. And it's not like the official State Department position is, supporting the government, but you know, Trump loves Abu Dhabi, and so they're kind of just like, look, guys, can't we just like get back to good old-fashioned plundering? Because it is, I mean, it is very much like an issue of the structural problems in a country that's underdeveloped in the way that many global South countries are. Um, and it's important to think about it that way instead of being like this side good, this side bad, and because it's a small jump from that to like pushing for intervention, which the United States would never do. We don't care that
Oh
much. We
yeah.
would never
Yeah.
do that.
Never.
The United States would never like intervene in Sudan like that. But just even the idea of like, oh well, it's the long road to Samantha Power. As humanitarian interventions don't I mean they don't really solve anything. And
Yeah.
this Sudan is very, it's not fun to talk about in my mind. At least this conflict. I
Mm.
mean, not like other stuff that we talk about is fun to talk about, but it is a little bit hard to have an angle on it. But it is, I think it's one of those countries that's important to like, because it has such a rich history that is just overlooked for like pictures of, dead babies, and that kind of stuff. I mean, especially like the way like Darfur, like in high school, I remember especially like the Amnesty International kids and stuff. They would always be like that.
Yeah.
That Darfur was the original like spreading awareness campaign, and then like we're aware of it, but now what? You know, and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. I remember Darfur. Like the By the way, I have to go in like a couple
okay,
minutes, but
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, we're
actually, yeah,
wrapping
actually,
up.
I think yeah, we're wrapping up. Well, we're in good time, but yeah, I'm actually gonna perform at this open mic I haven't been in a while. And it's something like actually I'll connect even that what I just said to what we're talking about now. Um, yeah, I remember. Yeah, in the really like the mid to late 2000s, how Darfur and Sudan was talked about. It was all like we have to raise awareness, and it was through the kind of lens of this liberal Western humanitarianism, and it was just like we have to talk about how many people are being killed in this genocide in Sudan, but often what would get left out is like, what's the history of Sudan? How did this siege, this conflict get laid? It was like a lot of stuff I remember from that time was very ahistorical. It was more like if you started from history, it would maybe start from like the basically post-independence history, not the history of the colonial period or the pre-colonial period, which I think that leaves a lot of stuff out for really for any conflict, but especially for Sudan and a lot of places, a lot of countries in Africa. A lot of times when problems in Africa are talked about, a lot of it is post-independent. Like the historical background is post-independence, and then onward. The colonial period doesn't get mentioned enough, and same with the pre-colonial period. But I think like when you look at Africa from post-independence, colonial period, transatlantic slave trade, and pre-colonial, pre-slavery history, in my opinion, a lot of stuff in Africa, when you look at it more, like things start to like make sense and fit together more. And I'm connected with my performance as a Black American West African drummer playing djembe. I have like a deep personal interest in learning the history of West Africa and also the parts of African American culture that do go back to West Africa, which again, to even understand that, you would have to learn more about Africa's pre-colonial history and then the actual history of the transatlantic slave trade and then onward, right, to make sense of it. So if you apply the same lens to Sudan, it helps to put these, to put things in perspective. And the same with Congo. And one thing that like I get a little frustrated with, and not in like a bad way, because I know people are coming from the right place, but because I see a lot of like, we need to talk about Sudan and like, on social media. And it's like, okay, I hear that like you go on Instagram, TikTok, we need to talk about Sudan. It's like, okay, I remember that like 15 years ago, people were saying that, or almost 20 years ago, really, for going back to like 2007. I remember that. Like people like, we need to talk about Darfur. Okay, so if we're going to talk about it, where are you going to start the conversation? Because a lot of times, even on like, I would say like progressive left, because I'm noticing some people on the left, because there's this, I guess, a little bit of like somewhat guilt that some people feel that, oh shit, we've been talking about Palestine so much, but there are these genocides going on in Congo and Sudan, and we're not talking about it. Like, okay, you can talk about it, but like, do you really know like how this started? And it's similar with Palestine, because even though like people are talking more about Palestine, as someone who studied, like my minor at Stanford was Middle Eastern languages, literatures, cultures. I am not fluent in Arabic, but I did spend like a good deal of my college years studying this history and as a journalist covering these issues. So, I mean, it's always good when like people become newly conscious and aware, want to learn more, want to get engaged. But I've noticed in the past like 2 years, people have been getting like this interesting crash course in Middle East history that I'm like, oh, I remember having to study this in college and like really having to dig through books and dive deep into this shit, and I think like if you want to learn more about Sudan, Congo, Africa, or just things going on in the world, like you do have to look beyond Instagram and TikTok. And even if it means coming from people who you may be sympathetic with, you can't just like, share a post or a meme or stream about it and then on social media and that's it. Like, no, you actually have to like do a little bit of homework, like what I just did with you guys. You have to do a little bit of homework and read a little bit deeper and know how to put things in perspective. And one of my concerns is that the good thing with social media and Instagram is that you do get images that like especially with Palestine, like it's undeniable that there's a genocide going on because everyone can see the images. But at the same time, right, like, you don't have to be an expert on Middle East history to know that the genocide is wrong, and same with Sudan, et cetera, et cetera. But, if you want to do something and if you want to get more involved, like, involves a little bit of homework, especially to put things in perspective. And I think especially for Africa, and this will be my last point, and then we can wrap up. Like I've heard that part of the reason why people don't talk about Sudan or Congo is anti-blackness, and I think that's definitely a reason. I wouldn't say it's the crux of it, or well, maybe it's related to this point I'm getting at. I think a lot of it, people just don't know shit about Africa. Period. Like a lot of it's just like, cause think about it. This is something I think about even as a teacher because I actually want to teach history. If you go through your entire public K through 12 education, how many times do you even talk about Africa's history? Maybe a blip. That's it. The rest is going to be like white people, white man, America, blah, 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 blah. So if you are a product of the American public school system, you're not getting shit about Africa, let alone the Middle East. And when most people go to college, they're probably not taking classes on Middle East history or the history of Africa or stuff like that.
I
think
was going to say they are now, but I forgot nobody studies history anymore. So you're right.
Yeah, I mean, well, even when people do study, I mean, connecting to fucking AI, people are just getting Chat GPT summaries and shit versus reading a fucking book, which I hate Chat GPT. But you can't just Chat GPT and AI your way through understanding a conflict. You have to dig deeper and find some interesting sources that probably might be overlooked by Chat GPT or any simple Google search, and go through encyclopedias and stuff like that. So anyway, yeah, that's really what I have to say about particularly with Africa and Sudan and understanding what's going on in Sudan. But I personally really did enjoy digging more into the history of Sudan. This is something I've been meaning to do because yeah, I wanted to give Sudan its just due in terms of historical context, and also even again to appreciate Sudan's own ancient history, because I think because people hear a lot about ancient Egypt, but like ancient Egypt civilization is connected with Sudan's modern day Sudan. The roots of ancient Egypt go back to ancient Nubia, which is pretty much present day Sudan, southern Egypt to present day like northern Sudan. That's where the roots of ancient Egyptian civilization and culture started. Like there are ancient pyramids in ancient Nubia that go back like thousands of years. That is part of Sudanese history. So yeah, as people think about like the bloodshed in Sudan, also think about its own rich cultural heritage and how it's evolved over time, because it wasn't always an Islamic nation. Like there was a like I said, there was a medieval Christian period, and then there was ancient Nubian kingdoms, and it's a diverse nation. So yeah, I'll end on that.
And I guess just 2 points. One, sometimes anti-imperialism is not a simple exercise in sloganeering, and it does require actual research and analysis. But I will say that the the NGOs have been doing a lot in Sudan, um, and I think that that is
Mm.
probably worth investigating, um,
Mm.
in the way, and Omar Bashir, while obviously not a great guy, uh, was very conveniently sort of on, I guess, more than non. He was not a Western ally as such, generally, not
Yeah.
pro-Israel. So it was very much like he's very easily demonized without like sort of understanding the ways in which any post-colonial country fits in the geopolitical order. And then the second thing is like, yeah, I think it's really it's kind of disgraceful that like even bringing up like ancient Nubian history gets written off as like Hotepism when like
Yeah.
it's real and it needs to it needs to get its proper place in world history. So I definitely think this is
Yeah.
a topic we will return to. So that's a good reason to subscribe. I found when talking about sort of the takeover of Sudan by the Brits, there's a when trying to find like a podcast on Sudan, I found someone who wrote about it, who was a participant in it, and it's a one Winston Churchill.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking that uh, at some point when I can get up a streaming kind of operation, that might be a fun thing to like read on stream or something. That's probably going to be a couple of months out before I get a stable internet connection. But um, that's the kind of stuff that you get from this podcast that you don't get from a lot of other places. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
on that note,
that's a reason. Yeah. Yeah. That's a reason to subscribe, be a patron for $5 a month at patreon.com/real Sankara hours, or $3 a month just as a, supporter. Um, and like I said, if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, again, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. I've been looking at our analytics and I'm seeing more people subscribe to our YouTube channel. So if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and also click the bell icon for notifications, you'll be notified of every time there's a new episode that comes up on our, particularly our YouTube channel. And basically, all the episodes that are free are on our YouTube channel, but for the ones behind the paywall, the bonus episodes, you have to go to patreon.com/real Sankara hours to access those. And our last bonus episode was about the Port Chicago disaster. And I encourage you guys. I'm not going to give it away. Actually, just go on our Patreon, find it, and listen to it. There's a lot of that one is really good. We did some field recording on that, and so that I'm just going to tease that for you guys. But we did a podcast episode about the Port Chicago disaster. And what else? Yeah, I've also been looking at our Podbean statistics, and actually, I do want to give a shout out. I was actually looking at our statistics from our RSS feed, and I've noticed I think around a third of our downloads are from outside the U.S. So it's pretty cool. We have a it's pretty cool. We have an international audience. One of the countries that came up quite a bit was Brazil. So shout out to Brazil. Hold on. Actually, let me look up the stats right now in terms of our outreach globally. Yeah, Brazil, Australia. Oh, interesting. Egypt.
you guys are the good Australians. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys are the cool ones.
Yeah, actually, the top countries that came up. Obviously, the United States was the kind of bulk of our downloads, around 64%. But actually, in the top three, Brazil and Canada. So we have, I just want to give some shout out to our listeners in Brazil and Canada.
Dude, I was pulling for the Blue Jays. I'm sorry.
And
you'll get them next year. Fuck the Dodgers.
And also Germany. I do know there is a black diaspora in Germany. So I know there's a black diaspora, some Pan African. There are black immigrants in Germany. So want to give a shout out. But I was um yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Like especially the listenership we're getting in Brazil. That's interesting. But more with the Pan African spirit. So yeah, I just want to give a shout out to our listeners in other parts of the world. Only a few other downloads, like a handful, just spread throughout other countries. Oh, we have one download in Libya, Iraq, Jordan, Honduras, Ireland, uh, Argentina, Armenia. UAE, the UAE, United Arab Emirates,
Uh-oh.
Ecuador, yeah, the UK, yeah, because we had just mentioned the UAE, but
I
not in
hope
a
these are real
pleasant.
people.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping they're not bots either, but I'm pretty confident at least with the top three, Brazil and Canada. Our top three countries are obviously U.S. The U.S. is our most heaviest listenership, but um, I'm pretty confident in that like we have that there's real people listening to us in Brazil and Canada. So I just want to give a shout out, but yeah, we appreciate the love we're getting from outside the U.S. Um, and yeah, if you like this, if you like our stuff, patreon.com/real Sankara Hours, $5 a month, and you can get access to bonus episodes, and then our YouTube channel, which we're growing that. Just with YouTube, honestly, even if you can't support us financially, um, just being a subscriber on YouTube, that's what I've realized. Like the more subscribers you get on YouTube, the more you show up in people's YouTube feed. So yeah, if you are a listener right now, the best thing you can do right now to support us, if you don't have the funds to do to become a patron, just subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell notification, because that helps us grow our reach. So anyway, yeah, with that said, keep the faith.
Stay dangerous.